Welcome to our school board meeting this evening. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us on this Monday night. Do we have any need for translation? Okay, seeing that we have none, at this time I will accept a motion to approve tonight's agenda with an amendment of C1-6 with the updated document.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. We will move on to board member discussion. We have a legislative report. Director Gerber?
Yes, quick legislative reports. This last week we met with all the school board representatives, and they talked about how WASA, which is the Washington Association of School Administrators, and works very closely with WASA all the time, they put out their legislative priorities, and so it's a good sign of what we're looking at and looking forward to in the legislative rep for this next year. And if you'll scroll down just a little bit so we can see the big three at the bottom. Okay, right there. So you remember last year they also had a big three. Two of them are the same as last year. We didn't get everything that they wanted last year, so the MSOC funding is the same as last year. The special education priority is the same as last year. But this year they changed the third one. Last time it was transportation. This time it is substitute costs. And like it says there, the state requires districts to provide a minimum of 10 days of sick leave, but only funds 4. Districts absorb millions in substitute costs each year, pulling resources away from classrooms and student learning. So I just wanted to make you aware of those priorities that WASA kind of put out, and WASA will be involved with as well. So those are their big three for the legislative session next year. And we're already hearing, there's no money and there's even less money than before and all that stuff. But these are the things that they're focusing on to help with the school funding. So.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to our board member retreat rescheduling. Are we looking for some dates? Okay.
We're trying to do before the school year starts, correct? Is that the goal? Yeah.
Requirement.
Do we have a day next week that works for anybody?
Mondays and Thursdays work for me.
Yeah, either Monday or Thursday next week would work for me.
Daytime or nighttime?
Nighttime.
Nighttime?
Yeah.
Okay. I can do Thursday of next week.
Thursday the 6th?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when does the evening session start for you? Is 5 too early?
No, that's perfect.
5 works? Director Foat? Okay. We'll schedule it for 5 p.m. on August 6th.
If that doesn't work for Azaro, should we come up with a secondary date just in case?
That's probably a good idea, yeah.
I could do the following Monday, the 10th.
I can't do that day. Oh, we have a board meeting that day, actually.
Okay.
I'll be out of town that week, so I can do the week of the 17th.
I can't do that week. For work, I
Okay.
have stuff going on, so.
What?
Monday the 3rd
Monday the 3rd.
of August.
I can do Monday the 3rd.
I can do Monday the 3rd.
I do too.
Yeah, I could do either the 3rd or the 6th.
Yeah.
Great.
We'll reach out to Director Perneda and we'll confirm which of those dates are preferable.
Okay.
Or
Perfect.
he's available, but I know the preferred one is August 6th, it sounds like.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve required approvals.
I'll make a motion to approve the required approvals.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. We'll move on to our superintendent informational items and hand it off to our superintendent.
Yeah, two important updates tonight. I think during the summertime, it can feel like things really slow down and what's happening sort of behind the scenes, but it also gives us time to come together and share updates on important initiatives that maybe the board has asked about over the past school year. And I know that this last year, there was some conversation after a WASDA conference about staff cell phone use. So we did some work over the school year led by Dr. Mirich from over at Scootney Springs, our principal there. And so she's here tonight to share what she learned and for us to share kind of where we're at in that process. So we'll welcome her.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, yes. I just want you to know that I have been thinking about this project for quite a while. When Dr. Perez gave me the challenge to do some investigating, it was really exciting, and I have been ready to share this for a little bit. But with the craziness of the end of the school year and then vacation time, which is very important, anyway, timing has been challenging. So I'm really excited to come before you and be able to share the findings that I have. I think that it's really great that we're having this conversation now, because this is a national conversation with cell phone use in schools. And even just last week, locally, the Bellingham Herald put out an article stating that OSPI had done a survey, and still within Washington, 31% of the schools don't even have like a student policy in place. So I feel like we're ahead of the game, and I'm really glad that now we're moving on from students to staff. So when I was asked to do this job, it was really to explore cell phone use in Othello School District and bring back the findings and recommendations. And so this work is not saying that cell phones are bad, it's just a tool.
You can click that.
Oh, there we go. That helps. But the question is really whether that we have clear shared expectations so that adults remain fully present when they're responsible for students. So this was kind of a three-part challenge. I did an internal investigation, an external investigation, and then I reviewed Ferndale's policy. And I had quite a nice conversation with the superintendent around their practices. So to begin, the internal review, I did 3 focus groups. One was with classified staff, one was with certified staff, and then with principals and administrators. And I asked them the questions in these focus groups. Where do staff currently use cell phones? When do they use cell phones? Why are they on their cell phones? So a series of these questions to really get to the heart of when, why, and how they're using cell phones currently. It was, as you can see, I asked principals to ask a couple of their staff members to participate, and we got participation from each of the schools. So I felt like it was really well represented of all the schools, and elementary and in the secondary. So just to kind of go over our current reality, we have no formal district policy or even clear expectations around staff cell phone use. And really practices varied from building to building for, and it depended on their roles. Classified was very much active, like during passing periods, during recess time, where teachers, were more in the classroom. So it was a wide variety of information that they brought. They really use cell phones for communication, for safety. Like there was a myriad of reasons that they use cell phones, and they were terrified. They were like, please don't make us put cell phones away, because they're really useful tools and we need them. But there were some pros and cons, and they did have some concerns. So really broken out into themes. The staff really valued professionalism and flexibility. Like they felt like they were connected to their phone for a lot of reasons, whether it's communication between colleagues, reaching out to families. Like there was a whole bunch of reasons why they felt like the phones were really good, useful tools. But they also said that it would be really good if we had some clear expectations so that when they felt like that they knew that like everybody was following the same professional standards. And there were some concerns about inconsistency and maybe some overuse. And so that was brought up. So let's talk about some of the common uses for the cell phone. Staff use cell phone for legitimate work reasons, including Skyward authentication. That was one that came up over and over. Like, I have to now authenticate. Every time I get into Skyward, I have to use my phone to get the code so that I can get into Skyward. Parent Square. A lot of teachers use Parent Square for communications with families. They check their email. Like, if they're out at recess and they need to contact the office for either a health emergency or a health situation or even discipline. A lot of times they use timers, like when they're doing cold timings for reading, like they'll just pull out their cell phone and use the 1-minute timer. They use it for alarms, like to know like, oh, it's time I need to transition. They use it for emergency communication, schedules, Red Rover, SmartPass, and, sometimes for instruction. Kids will say, we're talking about gorillas, and they're like, well, what is a gorilla? What is their habitat? So teachers will kind of Google it really quick and give kids, that instant picture so that they can reference what they're reading. Classified and secondary staff identified as spaces that they use cell phones, which is like recess, in the hallways, especially secondary when they have passing periods, on bus rides, lockdown drills, and like if they're on the field and they need communication quickly and they don't have a radio available. So there were a lot of reasons why they did use it. So then there were some areas of concern that was really interesting. They were worried about use during instruction and supervision, especially like if you're in the lunchroom and you're supposed to be supervising students, but you're checking your email or your social media posts. So there were some of those concerns. They felt like there was some inconsistency with enforcement. Like some could do it, some couldn't. It depended on if, like the principal was going to be there or not. And so they definitely felt like it was inconsistently enforced. And they all felt like the adults need to be the models. And so if we were misusing the phone, then that would show students, it's a bad model. So after I did the internal review, I did an external review. So I reached out to Warden School District, Royal, Moses Lake, Quincy, Connell, and Ephrata to find out their policies, and they're very similar to what we are. They have student cell phone policies in place, but absolutely nothing in place for staff. I also reached out to Ferndale because I know that was something that this board had heard Ferndale talk about their policy. And what was really interesting is they don't actually have a formal policy in place. What they've done is they've adopted the student policy to be for everyone. So it's not written into policy, but that is the expectation. They really felt like it was important for adults to model the expected behavior. They said consistency really matters. Clear communication was essential, and and they focused their attention on connection and belonging. So they felt like if they ran the same policy for staff as they did for students, it would just be better all around. And so in talking with her, I had already talked with our staff about some concerns, why they use phones, and so I kind of like shot, look, well, what about this? What about this? And they have a pretty good practice in place, but it would absolutely be a change in practice for us. But they felt like for their district, for their staff, for their students, it was the best policy. So it's not formal, but it is the expectation that everybody follow the student policy that they had in place. So in thinking about recommendations and thinking about a formal policy, there are some pros and there's some cons. So the pros of putting a cell phone policy in place is that it could increase student safety and supervision. What staff said should be non-negotiable is when students are present, adults should be present. When there should be no personal phone use when directly supervising and instructing students. Phones should be put away or on silent when students are present unless there is a work-related reason to use them, and safety has to come first. So those were all the things that our staff said were really important to them and that they believed. But there are some cons. It's not a perfect solution. So the cons or challenges, maybe that if we said no cell phones at all, that staff could feel very micromanaged. And there are different roles and that require some flexibility, because when you're on duty out at the buses or, away, and you need to look up a kid, or you need, that flexibility to be able to use your phone as a resource, if we got rid of it altogether, then we wouldn't have that option. We have emergencies, and sometimes there needs to be some quick communication. And then we have to ensure that enforcement is consistent. So instead of developing a formal policy, the recommendation is to get clear expectations. And so our HR department has been very thoughtful in working with Dr. Perez on what those expectations would be. I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to look at those, but I want to highlight some of the important parts of that expectation. So the staff cell phone and personal device expectations would include that we are expected to prioritize student supervision, instruction, and engagement over the personal device use. We need to be fully present, attentive, and available. We need to be the models of correct technology use, and we need to use the phones for legitimate work-related purposes. And we need to exercise professional judgment regarding when and what we're using. But during student contact, like when we're in direct supervision of students, we need to keep those cell phones put away unless it is work-related. Refrain from wearing the earbuds, AirPods, headphones, or similar devices for supervising students. So this is going to be really a change in practice for some of our employees who don't necessarily have direct supervision, but they are in contact with students. It's really important that employees remain able to hear students at all times. So I'm thinking about like a custodian. They like to put their earbuds in when they're working, but like when they're in the maybe they're doing the lunch duty. If they have kids around and they need to be aware, then they need to either have at least one out or both of them out so they can hear what's going on. And they've got to always be able to hear students, colleagues, announcements, alarms, and emergency communication at all times. So that's going to be a little bit of a change of practice. And when we're in front of parents or colleagues or students, we need to be able to give them our full attention. Also, the district understands that employees may occasionally need to respond to an urgent personal or family matter. So they're just asking that employees use good judgment. If you're going to need to be on the phone, you step away from students. And if students need to be supervised, that they arrange for that supervision and then they take that call and do what they need to do. Because employees' roles vary throughout the district, administrators also may establish building-specific procedures. So, like, the elementary need is going to be very different from the middle school or the high school. So, administrators can put in additional rules if they need to make sure that the needs are being met from the employee, but also making sure that we have a student-centered focus. Any questions about that so far? It's a lot.
You might not be able to answer this question, but do you perceive any negative feedback if we did some type of recommendations from staff members? So, for example, like the earbuds, do you foresee that being a big issue amongst staff?
I think if the employee understands the purpose, because this is all about being present in front of students and making sure that the employee is safe, that the students are safe, that colleagues are safe. I don't think that there's going to be a big pushback on that. And I know that when I was talking especially to the classified staff, that they were very passionate, like, we will follow expectations. We really do want to make sure that we're being, professional, but please don't take our cell phones away. And so understanding that the guidelines are there so that we can continue using our cell phones as tools, but ensuring that students come first and it's student safety and their safety.
I think that's a good question about pushback, and I think it's fair to expect some. Over the years, some experiences we've had, I think it centers around convenience. It's convenient to have your cell phone with you and to be able to communicate with whoever you need to get in touch with. When we asked folks not to use microwaves in their classroom, there were some that got irritated by that. When we took away the Sensies, so much of it, though, what Denise shared is really important. Why are we doing that? It's not to inconvenience you. Here's why we're making that change. So I would expect that there are some employee groups and some individual employees who have, particularly with the earbuds, and some of the feedback that I get from time to time is people posting on social media during work hours. Yeah. And again, I think that's convenient. It happens in the moment. I share what's happening in my life on these platforms. People are used to that. It's convenient. So it'll be important that our principals communicate that and that we consistently hold people accountable. What will become a frustration is if everyone's not held to that standard and expectation after we share it. So there'll be some work to do for sure.
I think, it's true in your home. It's true wherever. Like, if you're engaged as parents, your kids are there engaged. But when you check out and you get on your phone, it's really easy for kids to disengage and get on their electronics as well. I have kids in each grade level. That's not true. I have kids at each school level. So I have elementary, middle school, high school. I think that in my experience, my elementary kids have obviously never had a problem. Like, they don't have a phone. But it's never an issue where I've been in their class helping or gone to their school and there's kids on their phones. And I feel like our middle school does a really good job of keeping that consistency. If my daughter, who has a phone, if I text her at some point during the day during middle school, I don't hear from her till after school. And she's like, oh no, I never take that out of my locker. Like, they're really consistent with it. And my high schooler got in trouble a few times the first couple weeks of school, and then after that it was a free-for-all, texting me all day long, bring me lunch, pick me up, I need a drink, can I have $5, like, just all day. So I think the consistency of if maybe the expectation is there for teachers, maybe it'll help remind them, like, these are the expectations for these kids. And I love that. I don't want them to feel micromanaged, and maybe a policy is something that would make them feel that way. So I love the route that you've taken with the suggestion of these are our expectations, and it's doable. Like, it's doable to hold people to a high expectation, and they'll rise to the occasion and do it. So my hope in doing this is that the teachers will model the behavior for our students. And this is perfect timing because a bunch of stuff's going around on social media right now where several school districts are doing this exact same thing. And one of our teachers that used to teach at the high school, now teaches at the middle school, shared and said it's a night and day difference in the way that kids conduct themselves when they have access to phones at the high school versus when they have no access to their phones at the middle school. They're talking, they're engaging, they have ideas, they're doing all of these things that are really important to learning and to interpersonal communication skills that like you need and is as important, in my opinion, as the actual material that you're learning is the relationships that you're building and the ability that you're learning how to communicate and how to think and how to share ideas, all of these things that come into play later on in your life when you have to have a job and work with people. And I'm afraid our high school kids are missing that because maybe they don't have this expectation that we're talking about. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's super, super important. And I know that you'll get some backlash, but I think the overwhelming majority of people that I have talked to or that have approached me about this subject are saying, please do something for our kids. Like, do right by them. They need the help. They need the structure. It's okay to tell them no, you know?
I appreciate that. The whole goal in this is just ensuring that adults are fully present. And when we're thinking about engagement and belonging with our students, maybe with this policy, it will, or not policy, I'm sorry, just the shared expectations. And every single person I've talked to about it absolutely agrees that we need to have that just to make sure that we're fully present for students. So it will trickle down. We are the models in how to use that technology.
I would only add that some of the things that they said that that were the pros, recess, things like that where emergencies can happen, is because I think being outside, that's an easy time to be distracted by your phone, right? Kids are playing, they're enjoying themselves oftentimes. So maybe we give them, maybe there's ideas about giving them other resources, whether it's a radio, whether it's a phone that the school has and they take out to recess and that's what they use if there's so they have that in an emergency. Because I also am concerned about when they're utilizing their personal phone to access emails, and if they're responding, they're possibly opening themselves up to public disclosure, right? And then that can open up a can of worms when do you want your personal phone and maybe whatever else is in there to be disclosed to somebody who's requesting those kinds of things. So those are the kinds of things that I would be thinking of, because I work in an atmosphere where there is no cell phone unless it's issued to you. I've got a landline in my office, and unless I'm at my computer, and that's what I tell people, is that if you need me, hopefully I'm sitting at my desk or here's my landline. And so it can be done. Is it always convenient? No, because if something did go down in the place I work, I would want to reach out to my family. If I was in a place where I could, to reassure them. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I think pushback might be, is the scariest scenarios, not necessarily the day-to-day stuff, the what ifs, so to speak. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know that there are some individual employee groups that we have agreement with PSE or OEA to talk about cell phone stipends and working with people if their job requires that. So there's some complexity to it there. But we certainly understand that the public records end of it as well. And we remind people over and over that you should be cautious and only use district-approved platforms and things that can be archived just to protect yourself. So those are good reminders for us, and we'll make sure and share that with our employees. I do want to give 2 points of gratitude, one to Denise for taking the time and energy. It's busy job being a principal, and for her to take this on and this project, I really appreciate it, and her thoughtful approach. Also to the board for attending an event like WASDA, hearing about a practice that interests you in a different district, coming back to the district and saying, hey, what do we think about this? And then giving us the time to process and think through that. I think it's a really good model for your own learning as board members and for us to be responsive as a system. So really thank you for that, and we'll give it a go this school year and see how it goes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. All right. Next up, another future-focused project, and that's the Future Ready Schools team, and an important step for the board to consider tonight. So I'm going to invite Dr. Meek forward to share a briefing with you and to talk a little bit about that work.
So tonight, the board briefing...
I don't think that mic's on.
There we go.
Yep.
So tonight's board briefing, I'll reframe it as this is just-in-time learning, because as you know, your next agenda item is in direct response to this. And so I thought there were some important group learning things that we needed to accomplish before we put a resolution in front of you. Tonight, one of the important milestones, and I'm proud to tell you that this is probably the first official board action that you get to take and be a part of in moving this process forward, is the acceptance of the study and survey. So it's important for us to understand what do we talk about when it's a study and survey. First of all, it's important to know that study and survey is the first step that's required in Washington as part of that SCAP, the School Construction Assistance Project. So you can never qualify for SCAP money unless you complete a study and survey. You'll often hear people refer to, and those of you that have been able to participate in the Future Ready Schools team, you've heard of the D forms. The D forms are nothing more than basically a series of approval steps from OSPI throughout the process. The study and survey is actually the D1, so it's the very first of those steps. The state helps fund the completion of a study and survey up to every 6 years. Not all districts do it that frequently, but so for every 6 years you can qualify to get part of the cost reimbursed to you for the completion of the study and survey. The bottom line is, and there's nothing, I can tell you, and if you've had a chance to look in your board packet, there's nothing in there that's probably surprising to you. It's all things you've seen before, but it's really a collection of gathering all that information together, especially for talking about current and future facility needs and student enrollment trends, which are exactly the work that the Future Ready Schools team has been doing. It also has a part where it evaluates the condition, capacity, and use of school facilities. That's what we've been doing through that work. You may have heard the acronym ICOS. You know that annually we have to file a condition survey, basically telling the state and the public how our facilities are surviving and what condition they're in. And then there's also a component of that you noticed that's talking about the district's financial capacity to be able to support facility projects. And that all ties back to the bond allowable amounts and things like that. And then it assesses deferred maintenance and major repair needs. This has been an ongoing trend through our Future Ready Schools team of really talking about what about those other things. We know Othello High School is probably at the top of that list, but what about the other things? What about the roofs at Ludokaga and playgrounds that need replacement and pavement that needs to be fixed and all the other projects that are out there? And that really falls under that deferred maintenance and major repair needs. It's required for the firm that works with us on our study and survey to do a cost-benefit analysis, and so they're supposed to really look at what the different cost options could be, and then it's governed by a WAC, which is a lot of just legal language to say everything that I just said to you. So before we talk specifically about our study and survey, any questions about what is a study and survey in general? All right. Our study and survey, as you know, it's a very long document. You see, and it probably took a while to download on your iPad there. But there are really several key contributors that had a part in kind of putting this together. So officially, our study and survey in Washington has to be done by an architecture firm. and we used Architects West that has really had a pretty significant presence in our district for some time. Really a strong, positive reputation of doing solid work for us. I should clarify that when a district selects an architect to do a study and survey, that it does not mean that that architect is also hired to do the actual projects. It's just they're hired to conduct the study and survey. So the team from Architects West really was key in that. They partner with a variety of different engineering firms. I refer to this part as looking at the specialists of all the different components of once a project goes into construction. And so you'll see in there references to different engineering firms that are experts on civil engineering and all the other pieces. And so they all come together to really get a lot of different sets of eyes on it before it's moved forward. You've met our folks and partners from Turner Townsend Heery. They are our folks that would be doing our project management. Kent Madsen is our local representative. He lives in Moses Lake, and he's been part of our Future Ready Schools team as well. They get very involved in really ensuring the district's interest in that as these projects move forward, that we're making sound decisions. Our Future Ready Schools team, while they didn't know it, part of the purpose of a study and survey is to start to process in a community what's the right projects moving forward. So we've been able to use the feedback from the Future Ready Schools team to inform this process as we go along. And so that's why this is now to you in final form. And then obviously at the district, we had a variety of roles. Greg Foltz had a significant role, especially on the condition of facilities. Sister Amy on the financial side of things, enrollment, and there's a variety of things. And so you put all of those groups together, and they really become the key contributors to it. Tonight, right after this on your agenda, is asking you to, our recommendation is for you to approve the study and survey and accept it. You have that rather lengthy report that you could review and analyze and understand the prepared report. It does in Washington require a resolution, so in order for us to file it with OSPI, it requires that the school board passed or accepted the study and survey with a resolution. If for some reason it's not acceptable, we can certainly go back to the drawing board too. So if you're not forced to accept it, you could say, no, it needs some more work in this area. And then ultimately it gets filed with OSPI again as that D1 form, which is a really significant milestone for us as a community because that officially kicks off the bond season, if you will, because then we're on file with completing D1. And the D2 is actually, it's OSPI's approval and acceptance of your study and survey. So the study and survey really drives both the D1 and the D2 process. So it's kind of exciting. Any questions about those, or maybe more specifically before you get to the action item, is there anything in your review that you had questions about, or?
I did have one question as I was going through the survey. For each building, it like breaks down things and gives them like a percentage, like the 90% is good for like. And I was just wondering as I was looking through, what percentage like do we start to worry? Like, where do we go? Oh, this is a problem. Like, what's the number where they usually say that for?
That's a great question. The first answer is there is no statewide number per se. So there isn't like a threshold that says like if it scores below a 70%. We are, I would say it's kind of a blessing and a curse. Greg Foltz and his team does an excellent job maintaining our facilities. And so a lot of those scores, when you look at them, they're probably a little bit higher than maybe what some of us would anticipate because we think of a building and we think, gosh, that's got to score really low. But because of the great work of our maintenance team, they score fairly high. Really, and where when we were doing the Future Ready Schools team, when you start to dip into those 60s and below 70s, it's similar to a grading scale when you're starting to get into that DNF value. The equivalent score of those is like a poor or is failing. Obviously, none of our facilities are in the emergency category. I mean, there are schools, and we've seen some around us where the gym roof collapses and it's no longer usable. We're not in that condition, but obviously it takes a very long time to go from what might be poor condition right now and what it's expected to do into the future. So it's really up to the district to say, how aggressively do we approach this list? I will remind you that our deferred maintenance list, I believe, is almost identical to what it was in the last bond attempt in 2021 or something in that area. So I think that's a good sign that our needs haven't changed per se on what's still a need. But you can also anticipate, just like in your home, if you didn't take care of it 5 years ago, it's not going to get better on its own. We've got to get to work with it. So.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, I will stop talking. We will have your next board briefing at the end of August, just before school starts. And I'll let you get to your formal action or conversation related to the actual study and survey. So,
just wanted to say before we do that, thank you so much, Dr. Meek, for all of the work that you've put in. Sure. I know how much time this takes. I've been through this process before when I first got on the board, and I really appreciate you and your team, Sister Amy, everybody that's been putting effort in to make this happen.
Thank you.
Sorry, I did have one more question. My mistake. I know, so at the very end it talks about May 2029 as when we want to pass the bond. Does this lock us into that date? Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. I should have said that. That should have been one of my bullets. The information in the study and survey is just kind of general guidepost, and so it doesn't lock us into anything other than if all of a sudden the district decided to go in a completely different direction, we may find ourselves that we had to do a new study and survey. And a good example of that, if a year from now we say, you know what, we don't need a high school, really what we need is 2 new middle schools, we would probably have to do a revised study and survey to go back to there. But I hope that we were far enough along in the process, especially the feedback from the Future Ready Schools team, that I think there's almost a unanimous idea around where our needs are. So, but the dates itself don't really matter.
Thank you.
Okay. Pardon me while I fumble through this, but am I accepting a motion? Okay, at this time I will accept a motion to approve the resolution 26-008 for a study and survey for the Othello School District.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, I also need to do a roll call. So Aaron?
Aye.
Aye.
Mariah?
Aye.
Birdie?
Aye.
Lindsay? Aye.
I know she forgot my name.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you again, Dr. Meek, for all of your work. At this time, we will move on to public comment. Do we have any? Okay. Our upcoming events, a potential board meeting next week, or a board retreat. And then after that, August 10th, we have a regular board meeting at 7 p.m. August 24th, our last noon board meeting, correct? Nope, just kidding. August 24th, we have a meeting at noon, and then August 27th is our first day of school. Do you have anything else we need to add to that? Upcoming events? All right, we'll move into our board self-assessment of the meeting.
I think we had a really good cell phone presentation, so thank you for that. I think it's very important to also identify that staff will have some type of feelings about it, so I'm glad that you were able to hold those focus groups and really bring value to what they were talking about, so thank you.
I'm glad we were able to do the resolution to make a formal, official step towards the bond.
Well-planned agenda.
Nice to have you back.
It's good to be back. Miss Nazaro would be my delta. Anything else? Okay. At this time, the board will recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the performance of a public employee. No action will be taken. This meeting is adjourned.